I was once the beloved of a wealthy family's precious daughter, but tragically passed away due to an accident. In order to be reborn, I traversed countless worlds. Finally, in the 4th year after my death, I achieved rebirth. However, at this moment, a substitute in this world had already taken my place. He, bearing a face identical to mine, smugly provoked me. He said, "Everything that was yours is now mine. You arrived too late." But he didn't know. When someone deeply loved appears, everyone will abandon their principles and flock to that person. Chapter 1. I'm back, Mom. As I effortlessly pushed open the Wong family gate, I smiled and spoke to my mother sitting on the sofa. Just like every other time I returned home, it was ordinary and uneventful. But suddenly, there was a loud crash, the sound of her teacup smashing onto the floor. In response, she let out a heart-wrenching wail, her voice trembling as she said, "George, my son is back. I am George, the eldest son of the Wong family. I died of heart failure, and in my final moments, I was bound by a rapid transmigration system." That's when I realized I was merely the beloved of a wealthy young lady in a substitute story who died prematurely. The real male lead is a substitute who looks 9/10 like me. Because of our similar appearances, the Wong family took notice of him. In the end, my parents accepted him as their godson. My childhood sweetheart would become his girlfriend, and my sister would become his little fangirl. He would inherit everything I once had, wealth, women, everything, on the condition that I was dead. So, after completing tasks in another world, when the system asked if I wanted to return and be resurrected, I didn't hesitate to agree. Why should my life's efforts be used as a stepping stone for someone else? Even my death's tragedy would serve as the starting point for another's happiness. So I came back. I said, "Mom, it's me. I'm back." My mother's embrace was as warm as always, but this time it felt a bit suffocating, as if she feared that the moment she let go, I would disappear. I sighed, gently patting her frail body to comfort her. The system had altered their memories, changing my death from unsuccessful rescue 4 years ago to being lost in a maritime disaster. She believed she had been searching for me day after day, year after year. Now, reunited. However, the tearful and heartfelt reunion didn't last long, as noises from the doorway interrupted us. "Mom, look what I bought you." Before anyone arrived, a greasy male voice echoed. The next second, a young man entered first, holding a box of snacks. Shortly after, a familiar, light female voice came with a hint of reproach. "Why the rush? Always in such a hurry?" With just one sentence, I recognized her identity, Willow, my female friend who grew up with me. Another female voice chimed in. "Mom, are we expecting guests? Why are you crying?" This was my sister, Anna. She had already entered, but since I was facing away from her, she didn't recognize me immediately. All she saw was our mother clutching my arm and crying, and after a moment of confusion, she began to ask questions. I felt my mother grip my hand even tighter, her eyes reddened, lips trembling, wanting to speak but unable to stop the endless flow of tears. My sister said, "Mom, please stop crying. What's going on? Who is this person?" The male voice spoke again. "Willow, what's wrong? Why are you squeezing me like that?" Willow seemed to sense something, her hopeful gaze falling on my back. She remained indifferent to the man's questions, even lightly biting her lips, trying to call out that familiar yet long estranged name. The man looked puzzled. "What's going on with you all today?" The security guard at the door said, "I just came back a moment ago." "This is really strange." He frowned, looking at our crying mother, then at the silent sister, and finally at Willow, whose emotions seemed off. Finally, his gaze settled on me, and a bad feeling suddenly arose in his heart. As if to confirm this premonition, I slowly stood up, turned around, and looked at them. I said, "Anna, Willow, long time no see." Chapter 2. Willow called out to me, "George." Her voice trembled barely audibly. Anna, however, was much more outspoken. She scolded me angrily. "George, you dare to come back? Where have you been all these years? Do you know I really thought you were dead? How dare you? How dare you?" At 18, the young girl hadn't fully shed her childish innocence. Her words were harsh, but her little pearls, tears, couldn't be controlled and kept falling one after another. Feeling guilty, I patted her on the head and said, "Anna has grown up." She was only 14 back then, and in the blink of an eye, she had become a young woman. It seemed she couldn't hold back anymore. She buried her head in my chest, choking back tears and whispering softly, "Brother, I missed you so much." This reunion was filled with both joy and sorrow. It wasn't until the snack box fell to the ground that everyone noticed the man who had been standing silently at the doorway. I looked at him, the substitute with a face strikingly similar to mine, his complexion pale and his appearance disheveled and dreadful. We sat down together for a thoughtfully prepared dinner, each dish being one of my favorites. My mother kept serving me more food, and Anna insisted that I eat 3 bowls of rice. However, when Willow brought out the braised beef that had been simmering in the kitchen for a long time, Everyone was stunned. It was my favorite dish. Yet she instinctively placed it in front of Makoto. Makoto frowned and said, "Thank you, but Willow, you might have forgotten, I'm allergic to beef." This was the first time he spoke after learning about my true identity. "I'm sorry." Willow paused and replied lightly. I didn't pay attention to the undercurrents at the dinner table, calmly eating my meal. My mother said, "Your room hasn't changed at all. I clean it for you every day. Now that you're back, go get some rest. The doctor will come to check you later, and your father will be home tomorrow." Her endless chatter was her way of showing concern, and I responded accordingly. They didn't say much about Makoto, but I didn't mind. This was the confidence that comes from being deeply loved. However, I hadn't anticipated that if I didn't go, problems would automatically arise. Late at night, someone knocked on my bedroom door. I opened the door to find Makoto's familiar face, holding a bottle of beer. I raised an eyebrow at him, somewhat surprised, thinking he might be trying to ease the awkwardness and hoping to share a drink, but instead, he abandoned his silence and restraint from the dinner, a mocking expression on his face. He said, "If you're dead, then you're dead. Why did you come back? Do you think you can fight me? After all, I've been pursuing them for 4 years. Everything you have, except for this room, is mine. You came back too late. Understand?" Pursuing. It was a familiar term. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for my reaction, he grabbed the beer bottle, slammed it against his head with a loud bang, the bottle shattering and emitting a crisp sound. Then, he howled loudly and collapsed to the ground. Through his sobs, he cried, "Big brother, I'm sorry. I just wanted to have a drink with you. I meant no harm." I was speechless. This type of plot twist in trope novels is indeed enduring. In that moment, I even found it somewhat amusing, watching the man lie on the ground in a pitiful state, his clothes disheveled, beer dripping from the corners of his eyes. His gaze towards me was full of humiliation. In short, his subdued and resigned demeanor truly deserved an award for Best Actor. In truth, I wasn't eager to argue with Makoto about anything. For whatever reason, he had been the one to comfort my family members over the years. I didn't hold much resentment towards him. I just wanted him to realize the difficulty and back off. But his hostility towards me was evidently significant. Noises at night are always particularly attention-grabbing, especially on a day like this. Everyone in the house had no intention of sleeping. So, when the beer bottle shattered, other doors began to open one after another. Chapter 3. Someone asked, "What happened? Son, did you get injured?" My mother's face was pale as she hastily threw on a piece of clothing, anxiously wearing mismatched shoes. It wasn't until she saw me standing there perfectly fine that she let out a sigh of relief. Over the years, her sleep had never been good. She constantly had recurring nightmares, all filled with unsettling images. Makoto then replied, "Mom, I'm fine." After confirming my safety, Makoto's voice reached her ears. My mother frowned as she looked at the shards of glass beside Makoto and asked, "Child, what happened to you? How did you end up on the ground?" Before Makoto could respond, she spoke again. "How careless can you be? What if the broken bottle cuts someone? Get up quickly." Makoto was speechless. He adjusted his emotions and sighed. "It's my brother." It seemed he was about to put on a show again. My sister interrupted him. "Bro, what's wrong with your hand?" Anna clearly targeted me, pulling my hand. There was a small cut on the back of my hand, with a tiny bit of blood, probably from a shard of the broken bottle accidentally scraping it. It didn't hurt, nor did I feel anything else, but Anna looked worried enough to cry. She said, "Brother, you're really careless. Didn't you even know you were hurt?" She complained, gently blowing on it like she used to when we were kids, then quickly realized her overreaction. She said, "Brother, I'll go get the first aid kit." As she spoke, she tried to run away. My mother also approached, looking guilty as she said, "Anna, hurry up. You're bleeding, and your brother must be in pain." "It's my fault. I didn't notice you were hurt." Makoto was ignored by everyone. He couldn't help but twist his face in frustration. Ever since he had clawed his way up from the bottom of society through deceit and manipulation, he hadn't felt the taste of defeat for a long time. My parents' concern, my girlfriend's thoughtfulness, and my sister's admiration, all were easily within his grasp. He believed he was on the verge of winning over a rich and beautiful woman, reaching the pinnacle of his life. But now, the person who was supposed to be dead had come back to life. I calmly said, "Mom, I'm fine. It doesn't hurt." I noticed the resentment and jealousy in Makoto's demeanor, knowing he wouldn't let this go easily. When you possess something for a long time, you subconsciously believe it's yours when he thought it was his, only to realize it wasn't. The negative gap between his expectations and reality was hard to bear. So, in the next second, while my mother wasn't paying attention, he grabbed a piece of glass. His palm was drenched in fresh blood as he clenched his teeth and said, "Mom, I'm bleeding too." He looked utterly miserable, trembling as he held out his palm, resembling a terminal patient saying their final goodbyes. I was left speechless. "Anna, the first aid kit." I brought the first aid kit, Anna appeared just in time, seeing Makoto with blood all over his hands. She paused. Makoto quickly said, "Sis, look, I won't get infected, right?" He took advantage of Anna being such a sensitive little girl, knowing she would be incredibly worried seeing this, especially since she always followed him around like a shadow, treating him like an older brother. Whenever he got hurt playing sports, she would carefully help bandage his wounds. As soon as he saw my sister hesitate for a moment, he began his act. Anna pressed her lips together, and the first aid kit in her hand was immediately taken by my mother. My mother hurriedly pulled me into my room, wanting to treat my wound. I said, "Anna, quickly help Makoto up." I naturally understood that my mother and sister were ignoring him. Besides focusing more attention on me, they also didn't want me to feel uncomfortable because of Makoto. This stranger, after all, he had such a similar face. Calling her mom and sister, I wasn't stupid. I knew what he had been to our family during the years I was gone. My words surprised my mother. She paused, glanced back, and saw Anna carefully avoiding the glass shards, supporting Makoto by the arm. Makoto shakily stood up, acting pitiful. "Anna, Mom, are you all avoiding me?" Anna pressed her lips together without responding. He continued, "I came here just to have a drink with my brother, to chat, but I don't understand why he's acting this way. He's so angry with me. Mom is avoiding me. And you, sis, do you all not want me to stay in this family? If there's something I did wrong, I can apologize to my brother. But all this time, I've truly treated Mom as my own mother and you as my own sister. I care about you all so much. Anna." She called him softly. Makoto froze, looking at Anna with a puzzled expression. Anna met his gaze with calm eyes, as if looking at a stranger. She said, "George is my brother." Chapter 4. With just that one sentence, Makoto understood her meaning. George is her brother, not him. So his constant reference to brother was incorrect. George is her brother. So she unconditionally trusts George, and she wouldn't believe a single word he says. Makoto furrowed his brow, looking disappointed, and said, "What about me, Anna? What do these 3 years between us siblings mean? But you used to call me brother before." His voice was hoarse, his tone low. Anna denied it. "I never did. I never called you brother." She never referred to Makoto as her brother, except the first time they met when she thought it was me who had returned. Makoto was taken aback, seemingly recalling the situation. He searched his memory and realized that Anna was mostly silent. He had thought she was just too shy and didn't like to speak. He didn't expect that she had always been able to distinguish between the real George and him from the beginning, sparing a single word of brother. But he didn't believe it. After 3 years of living together day and night, with even the system acknowledging their bond, Anna wouldn't have any feelings for him at all. So he murmured to himself, "Aren't we family?" This time, Anna didn't respond. She gave Makoto a deep look before turning and walking into the house. Makoto's expression shifted several times before he finally fell silent and walked in as well. This was his first time entering the room that had been off limits ever since he became the Wong family's adopted son. This room was completely different from his own. It was spacious and bright. He had always thought that one day he would move in as the master and become the Wong family's heir. But in the end, it was the true owner who opened the door. My wound had already been treated, and I hadn't ignored the noises at the door. I said, "This gentleman's wound probably needs treatment too." I paused and saw that my sister didn't even glance at him, so I took the initiative to say, "Sis, why don't you do me a favor and help him out? The first aid kit is here." I spoke proactively, gently and kindly, presenting the most familiar demeanor to Anna's memory. She obediently nodded. "All right, bro." Anna didn't refuse and followed through, but Makoto felt humiliated. He thought I was provoking him, asserting who the real Wong family heir was. His sinister gaze kept flickering toward me. However, I seemed oblivious, continuing to talk to my mother. My mother said, "The doctor said your body is severely depleted. You need to rest well. If anything feels uncomfortable, make sure to tell me. Understand?" I smiled and replied, All right, I'll listen to Mom. Don't worry too much. I'm already an adult." My mother responded, "No matter how old you and Anna get, you'll always be my children here." How can a mother not worry about her own kids? My mother was a loving parent, but she rarely expressed herself so straightforwardly. I felt a bit melancholy, thinking about the relentless tasks I had to complete in unfamiliar worlds to achieve resurrection. I died once after another. Through all the hardships, what kept me going was the belief in returning home. I thought I was strong enough, but my mother's simple words still made my heart ache unbearably. "Ah!" Makoto shouted loudly, breaking the moment. He was drenched in cold sweat, looking very much in pain. Makoto had inflicted severe damage on himself. The cut on his palm was deep, with so many glass shards inside that removing them wasn't easy. Anna's actions weren't gentle at all. Anna snorted coldly. "A grown man, really?" She rolled her eyes and continued nonchalantly picking at his wound. Next, Makoto clenched his teeth and stayed silent. When the pain became too much, he fiercely twisted his other thigh. Soon, Anna had bandaged his wound completely, Chapter 5. I wearily rubbed my temples, and my mother noticed my movement. She spoke up. It's very late. Everyone should go to bed. We can discuss anything else tomorrow. Originally, Makoto seemed like he still had something to say, but seeing that everyone had stood up, he swallowed his words back. Anna packed up her things and got up. Before leaving, she didn't forget to say to me, "Good night, brother." I smiled and gently replied, "Good night, Anna. See you tomorrow." Instead of "good night, see you tomorrow" felt more hopeful. Anna's steps became noticeably lighter. My mother left the room with Makoto, and I knew they probably still had things to discuss. As expected, shortly after I closed my eyes, I heard a voice. My experience as a tasker had granted me some unusual abilities and talents. "Makoto, is your hand okay?" It was my mother's gentle voice. Shortly after, a hoarse, deep male voice responded. He spoke with an overwhelming sense of loss. "Mom, I thought you wouldn't recognize me as your son. I was really in pain just now. My hand isn't too bad, but why are you all ignoring me? I'm your son too." He wasn't wrong. Being an adopted son still made him a son. My mother replied, "George just returned after suffering for so many years. I wanted to take better care of him a bit more. You understand, right? You are both my children, and of course, I love you both the same. Besides, you've been by my side for so many years. How could I not recognize you? Silly child, don't overthink it. I'll call a doctor tomorrow. Your hand needs proper bandaging to prevent scarring." My mother changed her indifferent demeanor towards Makoto that she had shown in front of me, suddenly seeming like a completely different person. I couldn't help but frown, not understanding my mother's intentions, until Makoto spoke again. "I knew Mom would be worried about me too. Brother has such a terrible temper. I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to have a drink and chat with him. But he feels such deep animosity towards me, and even deliberately." My mother interrupted him. "Yes, Makoto is a kind-hearted person. I'll talk to George properly and apologize on his behalf. Tomorrow, I'll check the surveillance to see who isn't doing their job properly. George said you suddenly tripped and fell at his door, causing both of you to get injured." My mother cut Makoto off, continuing on her own. Her tone was slightly unpleasant, seemingly genuinely irritated by the servant's carelessness. Makoto was taken aback. Surveillance? Why was there such a thing at the door? No wonder Anna didn't believe his story earlier. He quickly corrected himself. "No, I was just clumsy and tripped on my own." "Mom, please don't trouble yourself. I'll be more careful next time. I'm sorry I caused my brother to get hurt too." Makoto suppressed his fabricated story. He thought to himself that since my mother still had feelings for him, he couldn't undermine himself. My mother seemed somewhat surprised and asked, "Is that so?" He replied, Yes, I'll apologize to my brother tomorrow. It's all my fault. I'm still so reckless even though I'm grown up." Makoto was surprisingly flexible, but perhaps due to his years of success, he saw this minor incident as nothing significant and didn't care much. Chapter 6. A mechanical electronic voice sounded, and the system spoke. "Host, are you feeling sad?" The outside had long returned to silence, and I was still pondering over the conversation between my mother and Makoto. My mother clearly didn't seem to have much affection for Makoto, so why was she so concerned about him behind the scenes? Every word had a deeper meaning, seemingly caring for him, but in reality, aiming to favor me. And Makoto, why did he so easily believe my mother's words? I also recalled him using the term to pursue or strategize for a relationship. Does he, like me, have something like a system? Before I could figure it out, the system, which had already been unbound, sounded in my mind, asking if I was feeling sad. I paused, somewhat bewildered, and retorted, "Why are you back?" It said, "I still want to see if the life you chose is not as good as listening to me back then. Didn't you choose immortality by not coming back?" I replied, "No, only here is where I belong." I shook my head, denying the system's words. It continued, "But your mother has already acknowledged another son. Like in all previous worlds, you will eventually be replaced by a substitute. No, perhaps you have already been replaced." I assented. "Better for the best person to live in memories, cherished forever." The system didn't quite understand human emotions. It could only analyze based on reality. I said, "No, I believe my mother." I thought to myself, a mother's love for her child cannot be faked. She loves me deeply, I firmly believe. This conversation with the system ended with its silence. I knew it hadn't left yet. The night grew quieter, and I felt sleepy, closing my eyes. More than my body, it was my soul that was exhausted. Every death wasn't the end, but the repetitive cycle of pain was something I had truly felt. Makoto said, "Willow, are you here to find me?" When I saw Willow's figure, Makoto couldn't wait and rushed over to embrace her. With my mother's comforting words from last night, he felt he hadn't lost. It was just that the impact of his first love's return was stronger. Over time, it would eventually become a lingering presence. So, he was confident when facing Willow as well. I watched the couple holding each other not far away, and my steps came to a halt. Makoto had a doting expression as he said, "I've reserved a table at your favorite restaurant for 7 o'clock tonight." As he spoke, he casually lifted his bandaged hand, continuing, "But I might need to trouble you to drive. My hand got a bit injured yesterday." If it were the past, Willow would have definitely questioned how he got injured. However, this time, Willow merely frowned and stepped out of his embrace. She said, "I'm sorry, Makoto. I'm not here to see you today," she continued. "George, can we talk when you have time?" She looked up and met my gaze. I raised an eyebrow, glanced at Makoto, who was filled with hostility towards me, and smiled in agreement. I said, "Sure." For the first time, Willow declined Makoto's invitation, giving me a chance to be alone with her. At the cafe, we sat in silence, the quiet stretching until I thought she simply wanted me to buy her a cup of coffee. She pressed her lips together and said, "I thought after so long apart, you'd have a lot to say to me." She sighed softly. I stopped stirring my coffee and looked up at her, asking, "What do you want to say?" She frowned and whispered, "George, you're still the same straight guy as before, always so direct." She took a sip of her coffee, lowered her head, and continued, "George, about Makoto. I'm sorry." She was referring to her treating Makoto as my substitute. She looked up, eyes filled with grievance, and continued, "I'll break up with him." "George, is there still a chance for us?" I put down my coffee cup and smiled faintly. "There's no chance." I decisively rejected her. Willow was stunned for a moment. She didn't understand why I gave such an answer. 4 years ago, I had persistently pursued her, and we were only one formal confession away from being together. "Why?" she almost instinctively asked. I replied, "Of course, it's because I don't like you anymore." I answered effortlessly, having witnessed so many similar scenarios over the years of transmigration. At this moment, it even felt a bit boring. This was a farewell that ended on a sour note, but I quickly brushed it off from my mind. Chapter 7. But someone was very concerned. In the study, Makoto appeared mysteriously in front of my desk. He asked, "Are you having a good time chatting with someone else's girlfriend? Isn't it exciting?" I paused my hand from flipping the book and looked up at him. I asked, "Aren't you tired of this?" He had 2 faces, in front of others. He was a warm and affectionate guy, but towards me, he was full of provocation. He laughed. "Tired? Why would I be tired? As long as I play your role well, I can live the same life as you. It's incredibly easy, but I just don't understand why you're still alive." He squinted his eyes, shedding all his disguises, making his face appear detestable. I shrugged. "Whatever happens to me has nothing to do with you. What isn't yours won't be yours. What you've gained through acting won't last long. Why not just be yourself? Those who recognize the times are heroes. If you're willing to step aside, I can give you some money. Don't get me wrong. I'm doing this for your own good. Leaving now with the money is in your best interest." Before things could escalate, I was willing to show some mercy. However, I had no interest in backing down and letting him step over me to rightfully become the Wong family's prince. He gritted his teeth. "Your high and mighty attitude is really annoying. In the end, it's all hypocrisy. You must really hate me inside," he said. "George, are you jealous of me, or are you scared?" As he spoke, Makoto couldn't help but laugh loudly, as if he had uncovered a hidden weakness of mine. He continued, George, you're not as confident as you think. You're scared. You're scared that even if you come back, in the end, they will still choose me. After all, during these missing years, it was me who was by their side day and night." Ha ha ha. Makoto became more convinced of his point. His eyes and brows were filled with satisfaction. I was speechless. I hate clever fools. Since that's the case, there's nothing more to discuss. I looked at his similar face showing an expression I would never have and, unable to tolerate it any longer, closed my eyes. He said, "Of course, I'll fight you to the end. George, Makoto, will never lose. I understand his tactics best. Just wait and see." With these defiant words, his demeanor exuded arrogance. Almost simultaneously with his declaration of war, I started experiencing Mercury retrograde, occasionally encountering minor misfortunes. At first, I didn't pay much attention until a car accident nearly broke my leg. Fortunately, thanks to my innate talent, I dodged in time. A near-miss accident brought tears to my mother's eyes. Shaking with fear, I began to stay alert. Sure enough, on my birthday party, another accident occurred. This was the first birthday I had celebrated in 4 years and also the first homecoming celebration. Friends from my previous circles attended, toasting and reminiscing with me. Compared to my side, Makoto's side was much quieter. After all, an adopted son couldn't compare to a biological one, especially being a substitute. Whether in terms of emotions or value, these high society offspring preferred to socialize with me. Makoto said, "Big brother, I'll toast to you." In front of everyone, Makoto appeared honest and straightforward. I didn't take his glass of alcohol. Instead, I took the one on the waiter's tray. He said, Then I'll drink the same as my big brother. With a barely noticeable glance, I wanted to maintain the facade of our staged interaction. Slightly nodding my chin in agreement, he took the initiative to toast me. This battle between the real protagonist and the substitute seemed unsurprisingly in my favor, but I knew Makoto wasn't someone who would give up easily. Almost as soon as he made a move, I signaled with my eyes for someone to follow him. Before long, shouts erupted. Makoto's face twisted in fury, his clothes disheveled, stumbling and staggering out of Anna's room. My heart tightened until a waiter passing by shoved something into my palm, finally calming me down. Chapter 8. He angrily accused, "George, why did you drug my drink?" As soon as Makoto finished speaking, he passed out, and someone immediately called for a doctor. All the guests present turned to look at me with strange glances because of his outburst. Some even exchanged looks, considering leaving to avoid offending anyone. However, at that moment, I decided to speak up. I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, there's no need to rush to leave. I'm also very curious about what Mr. Ito means by drugging. Whether it's right or wrong isn't just empty talk. I, George, will not accept this dirty water." As my words caused the room to quiet down, Makoto was lifted onto the table. The arriving doctor quickly began treating him, but within minutes, Makoto regained consciousness. As soon as he opened his eyes and saw me, he clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. "I've broken up with Willow, but you still won't let me go. I know you hate me and think I'm unworthy of being your substitute, but I've always treated you as my real big brother. And Anna, such a young girl, how could you bear to hurt her? Thank goodness I controlled myself. Otherwise, even though I'm an adopted son, siblings getting involved would be a huge scandal." His words were filled with deceit and provocation, aiming not only to drive a wedge between my family and me but also to tarnish my reputation. The guests began to discuss among themselves. Is George really this kind of person? He doesn't seem like it. Who knows? After all these years of him being missing, there's a complete blank. Maybe he's picked up some bad habits outside. People can change. I actually feel sorry for this Mr. Ito. Sure enough, when it came to matters of family inheritance and interests, some guests began to waver, and the murmurs grew louder. Willow said, "George, why are you taking your anger out on him because of me? What's wrong with Makoto? It's my fault for treating him as your substitute. You should be seeking revenge against me, and you even want to hurt your own little sister. George, you really disgust me." She stood on a moral high ground, scolding me harshly. I felt nothing but boredom. I said, "Are you crazy? Have you had enough of pretending?" I impatiently looked up, not understanding the purpose of every small world having to go through such trashy female drama. The next second, Makoto looked behind me as if he had seen reinforcements. He said, "Mom, my big brother is trying to hurt me. To hurt Anna." I turned around to see my mother. I opened my mouth to speak, but she interrupted me for the first time. She said, "Enough. Stop arguing. I don't want to hear it." I was stunned because I knew she was talking to me. My trusted mother, for the first time, stood against me. Was she helping that substitute? But why was her hand trembling slightly beside her? The system spoke. "See, I told you, you can't compete with the male lead host. I'm willing to give you another chance. Rebind with me. As long as you disappear, everyone who betrayed you will regret it and cherish your memory. This is the best punishment." The system's voice, filled with manipulative intent, sounded again. After being silent for so long, it still hadn't given up persuading me. "Shut up." I angrily rebuked it in my mind. I asked Makoto, "Why did you do that again?" I looked at Makoto with a heavy gaze. He saw our mother scolding me for his sake and was looking quite smug. He said, "Of course, I drugged your drink. You didn't want to take my glass, so I guided you to take another one. Isn't that what I wanted? Big brother, I really didn't expect you to hate me so much, even going as far as hurting Anna. She's your real little sister. You're so cold-blooded." Makoto was clearly trying to play the victim in front of everyone, but when he looked at me, his gaze was filled with blatant provocation and pity. He seemed to think I was already defeated. However, the next second, Anna, who had said she wasn't feeling well and was resting in her room, suddenly walked in dressed appropriately. She said, "Thank you so much for standing up for me. I just brought a gift for my brother. Can someone tell me what happened?" She held a delicate gift box in her hand, clearly not lying. Everyone was stunned. Since Anna wasn't in the room earlier, Makoto's messy exit from Anna's room must have been staged. Chapter 9. Makoto was also stunned. Although the room hadn't been lit, he clearly felt someone there. The next second, a female voice sounded. "Ito, sir, was so hasty just now." Turns out he mistook the person. A young woman walked out of Anna's room. Her every move was full of flirtatious charm, her clothes disheveled, and her lipstick slightly smudged from kissing. This was Anna's friend, the socialite Maria, famous in our circle, taking advantage of everyone's attention being diverted. I grabbed Anna's phone and inserted the memory card the waiter had shoved into my palm. The video inside showed Makoto's staged scenes. I said, "The drugging you mentioned, is it this?" I pulled out the footage, which showed Makoto sprinkling powder into my drink after toasting me. He had also deliberately had the servant deliver water to Anna under the pretext of caring for her, with drugs added to the water. At the right moment, he entered Anna's room, but he didn't expect that the person sleeping in the room wasn't Anna, so he didn't drink the water. Instead, Maria, being the hospitable girl she was, ended up kissing him. Makoto loudly said, "This can't be right. This video is fake." He widened his eyes, desperately denying it, but his mind was frantically calling the system. Makoto said to the system, "System, didn't you promise to help me block all videos? What are you doing? Do you even know who your real master is?" I was stunned. The voice was coming from his mind, but I could hear it. His called system had not responded, but I sensed a familiar energy fluctuation. Seeing the mocking gazes about to drown him, Makoto hurriedly said, "Mom, my mother," as if receiving a command, suddenly spoke. "Enough, George. Makoto is just being immature, just joking with you. Don't argue with him." I couldn't imagine such a split voice coming from my most trusted mother. Anna looked resentful, raised her wine glass to throw it at Makoto, but I hurriedly grabbed her to prevent her from acting out. Guests showed various expressions, but Makoto was delighted, saying, "Yes, big brother, it was just a joke, a childish prank. You won't mind, right? I just wanted to strengthen the brotherly bond. I won't dare to do it next time." He grinned shamelessly. Nobody would believe such a far-fetched excuse, but since my mother said so, no one dared to say anything openly. I laughed. "Of course I don't mind. If it were in a circus, I might even cheer more." I dropped that line and led Anna, who was about to lose her temper, to leave first. Anna complained, "I really don't understand her. Why does she talk to that person? They always said Makoto was your substitute. I thought she couldn't bear the pain of losing you, so she found someone to rely on. She wanted a harmonious family, and I went along with her play. But now that you've returned, what is she doing? Treating her biological son like this just for the sake of the adopted son?" Anna pouted her lips high. As an immature girl, she couldn't understand much about emotions. She just felt that her mother was helping an outsider suppress her brother. I laughed. "Don't be angry. Your pouted lips are so high they can hang a bottle. Actually, I'm fine. Makoto is only capable of this. He can't compete with me. Don't worry, sis." I patted her head, signaling her to calm down. She said, "But Mom," I said. "All right. I'll handle this. You might as well tell me about what happened these past few years while I was gone." I thought to myself, why did the plot differ from what I knew in advance? Anna pressed her lips together and nodded. Chapter 10. Mom, were you dreaming again? Late at night, when my mother came to check on me in my room, I opened my eyes and called out to her. This wasn't the first time she had secretly come to see me at midnight, but it was the first time I didn't pretend to be asleep. I had only learned today from Anna that she used to have recurring nightmares and poor sleep until Makoto arrived, after which things slowly began to improve. She seemed surprised to see me awake and hesitated before opening her mouth, her eyes filled with undeniable worry. In the end, she stammered, "I'm sorry." That single word made all my doubts vanish, replaced by an overwhelming sense of heartache. I said, "Mom, you have nothing to apologize for. I know you have your reasons, right?" She choked up, her tears streaming down her cheeks as she gently touched my hair. I appeared calm on the outside, but inside, my heart was in turmoil. Did she mean she could see every time I died? The thought was suffocating. But how could an ordinary person possess such a power? She continued, "George, death is so painful. If it were possible, I would never want my child to go through this. But I'm a useless mother, only able to watch you die in different ways without being able to help." Her tears rolled down her face as she lovingly stroked my hair. I maintained a calm demeanor, though my heart was shattered by her revelation. It seemed she could perceive my every death, and the impact it had on her must be immense. However, an ordinary person couldn't possibly have such abilities. She said, "My greatest wish is for you to have a safe and smooth life. Everything else, leave it to me." These were the last words my mother left me with that night. One night talk left me deeply unsettled. Since my mother spoke to Makoto last time, he had become increasingly arrogant, no longer bothering to maintain any facade with me. Of course, he wasn't easy to provoke. Makoto hadn't gained anything beneficial from our interactions. The most recent conflict occurred when he barged into my study to snatch the box of cigars my brother had given me. He leaned his legs on the back of the chair, puffing smoke and looking quite pleased with himself. He said, "Big brother, these things are really nice. Good things should be shared. Why keep them hidden?" I responded, "Didn't anyone tell you that taking without asking is stealing? Put it down, and get out of this room right now." Makoto stopped pretending. Naturally, I didn't greet him with a smile. He replied, "I won't put it down. I want this box of cigars. Otherwise, you'll have to ask Mom if I can take it." With that, Makoto tried to take the box and leave. I grabbed his collar and shouted, "Put it down." He sneered, trying to break free. The next second, I pulled him by the collar, quickly pressing his head down and smashing him onto the table he had just leaned his legs on. "You can't understand what I'm saying," I cursed angrily. Makoto was terrified. He never expected me to always be gentle. Now, he was acting physically upon disagreement. Realizing this, he yelled, "Let me go. How dare you hit me? I won't let you go." I clicked my tongue, expressionless, pressing his head down while he wailed, repeatedly smashing onto the table. "George, I'm going to kill you," he shouted. He spoke to the system. "System, you useless. He violated the rules. You must eliminate him now. Last time you told me it was because the affection level was over, so you couldn't activate the video blocking function. But this time you have no excuse, right?" Suddenly, my arm felt numb. All my suspicions were confirmed at that moment. The system had indeed betrayed me. Or rather, Makoto and I had been bound to the same system from the beginning. Hurting another tasker bound to the same system was against the rules and would result in punishment. The system spoke to him. "George has unbound from the system. He's not a tasker, and the system has no authority to eliminate him." It was the familiar voice of the system, but now it was emanating from Makoto. Chapter 11. This farce was eventually discovered by a servant, who called my mother over. In the living room, Makoto played the victim, making accusations, while I sat across from him with a cold expression, closing my eyes to avoid looking at him. My mother suddenly spoke. "Since you two can't get along, George, you should go abroad. Makoto is such a filial child. After all these years, I've grown accustomed to him being by my side." The living room fell silent instantly. I opened my eyes and saw Makoto wearing a smug expression. Although my mother was speaking to him, her eyes held nothing but coldness. Makoto was too happy to notice her true feelings. Her words were like a victory trumpet for him. When people are overly triumphant, they often overlook critical information. I said, "Fine." I glanced at my mother, remained silent for a long time, and finally uttered just that one word. In the next second, Makoto provocatively mimicked a loser face towards me. The decision for me to go abroad was thus made. Makoto was eager to announce to the world that he had won. The circle buzzed with discussions. Anna was so angry that she refused to come home, but it didn't change anyone's decision. I said, "System, I've figured it out. I'm willing to rebind with you. I want to make them regret it." "Maybe you're right. The perfect person is only worth remembering in memories." I looked down and forced a bitter smile. Silence followed. With no response from the system, I continued, "Even you abandoned me. Maybe I shouldn't have been resurrected in the first place." I murmured sadly. Time passed by second, and the familiar voice rang out again. The system said, "Host George, would you like to rebind with System 933? Please confirm yes or no." My eyes flickered slightly, but I feigned delight. I said, "Great, you're still here." It replied, "Yes, host. I've always been here." I said, "You were right. Human emotions are too fickle. I lost to my own substitute. What about you? Will you betray me?" I tested calmly. The system paused for a few seconds before continuing. "The system cannot betray the host. Otherwise, it will be destroyed." I suddenly remembered the day 4 years ago when I first bound with the system. To gain my trust, it had told me where the destruction key was. I had been so focused on resurrecting that I trusted it completely. It asked again, "Host George, do you choose to rebind?" Repeating the question, I chose yes. The binding process began. I suddenly asked, "Is Makoto also your tasker?" It replied, "Yes." It seemed surprised that I could perceive this, but now that I agreed to rebind and had no longer any conflict of interest with Makoto, it had nothing to hide. Moreover, the system's rules stated that it could not lie to its own host. It turned out to be a clone of Makoto's main system, specifically created to deceive me and drain my luck, allowing Makoto to take over my life. It had originally believed I would die in the task world, never expecting me to complete my task successfully and return alive. The system had no authority to eliminate me and could only fulfill its promise to resurrect me. However, when I returned to the original world and met Makoto, my luck surged as if returning home, attracting everyone's attention toward me. Makoto had thought it wouldn't be a problem. With the system's backing and the high affection level he had accumulated over the years, he believed that even if I returned, he couldn't be outdone. But my destructive power was too great. After just a few encounters, he had failed miserably. To eliminate me as an obstacle, he had to persuade the system to bind me and leave this world. Thus, the plot where I died early and was replaced was all fake, just to satisfy Makoto's desire for my life and the system's need for luck. He had been targeting me ever since I entered this world. I asked, "Does my mother's change in attitude have anything to do with you? Did you intentionally let her see the scenes of my death in the small worlds? Or did you and your side induce her to side with Makoto?" The system remained silent, merely speeding up the binding process without providing a more definitive answer. The system said, "Binding progress, 80, 90, 99, 100. Host, we can leave now. Since you've decided to abandon the past, leave it here. Additionally, the original host has chosen to unbind. From now on, I will only be your system. It seemed that once Makoto learned I was willing to rebind, he had unbound his own system and chosen to remain in this world permanently. Originally, his mission in this world was just to become the Wang family's adopted son, which he had already accomplished. However, he had been dragging it out all these years, unwilling to leave and too afraid to unbind and stay. Now, he had made his choice. Just as I was worried about falling asleep, someone brought me a pillow. I said, "Thank you for answering me. System 933. I will no longer trust a betrayer." I mentally located the destruction key and decisively and swiftly pressed it. In the next second, the system space in my mind flashed red lights, codes flew chaotically, and everything was on the verge of collapsing. System 933 experienced betrayal for the first time. It said, "You will regret this." I replied, "I won't." Chapter 12. Brother. I stopped Mom. The phone rang, and I answered it, hearing Anna's voice trembling with residual fear. Upon hearing the news, I breathed a sigh of relief, grabbed my keys, and ran out. I said, "You handled it very well. Don't panic. I'm coming right now." When I arrived at the abandoned warehouse, Makoto was lying in the dirty mud with his mouth gagged, and my mother was shaking her hands with eyes full of hatred. However, Anna was preventing her from taking further action. My sister said, "Mom, this is illegal. You can't do this. Staring at me won't help." My mother gritted her teeth and snarled, "If he doesn't die, your brother must die. Do you understand?" Anna froze, looking bewildered. My mother commanded, "Move aside." She pushed Anna to continue attacking Makoto, but I hurriedly grabbed her. I said, "Mom," she responded. "Why are you here? Get out of here. This doesn't concern you." "George, listen to Mom and live well." Upon seeing me, my mother looked horrified and shoved me to leave. I replied, "Mom, it's okay. It's all over now. Listen to me." So I told her the secrets of my 4-year disappearance, the process of being bound to the system, our previous conversations, and the system's destruction. My mother, choking up, said, "I knew it. Such coincidences don't exist." "George, I'm sorry." She tightly embraced me, crying uncontrollably, and Anna also had tears welling up in her eyes as she listened. Makoto was brought into the Wang family 3 years ago by Willow. Initially, my mother despised this person who looked so much like me and was disgusted by Willow's substitution behavior. Her son was unique. Even if there were thousands of people who looked similar, I was irreplaceable. After my disappearance, she began suffering from insomnia and nervous exhaustion. But after meeting Makoto, she suddenly started dreaming of various scenes of my death. A voice told her that only by treating Makoto well and sincerely considering him as her real son could her child have a chance to return. At first, she didn't believe it, but as those scenes became more frequent and intense, she began to approach Makoto with a hopeful attitude. As expected, her condition improved. As if she saw hope, she treated Makoto better, and everyone thought she was emotionally attaching herself to the substitute. However, every sleepless night, she secretly prayed for her child to return to her side. Finally, shortly after officially adopting Makoto, I truly returned. With just one glance, my mother could distinguish the difference between Makoto and me, and in that instant, she cried uncontrollably. I thought this was the perfect ending, but that voice began to appear again, saying that ignoring Makoto would cause me to continue facing misfortunes. And indeed, I started experiencing a series of small mishaps one after another. So, she tried to treat me well openly and, in private, care a little for Makoto to prevent me from noticing him. But it didn't help at all, until that car accident shattered her lucky streak, forcing her to maintain Makoto's image in public as well. She followed the instructions, and indeed, the situation improved. My mother was completely cold. She always believed that the ultimate beneficiary was the one who initiated everything. She couldn't let me suffer all my life, so she decided to send me abroad, lower Makoto's vigilance, and personally eliminate this threat. That voice must have been the system's hypnosis. After my mother's disappearance, her mental state was very poor, and she was likely exploited when she was mentally weak. Chapter 13. Makoto woke up, glanced around in terror, and then directed his gaze toward us, desperately seeking help. The sudden commotion caught my attention, so I turned to look, but Anna screamed, "Where did Makoto go? Where is he?" The man lying on the ground had a completely unfamiliar face, a face I had never seen before. I said, "He is Makoto." Anna was stunned, but my mother didn't seem too surprised. Now that she was free from any restraints, she no longer had to feign politeness with the imposter. She merely glanced at him indifferently before withdrawing her attention. Anna stepped forward and tore off the tape from Makoto's mouth. Makoto exclaimed, "Mom, it's George who wants to kidnap me. Please save me." However, in the next second, my sister saw him slandering me, so she quickly put the tape back on. Earning a harsh glare from Makoto, my sister said, "Can't you speak properly? We're a family here to rescue you. Don't be ungrateful." "If you can't speak anymore, We'll leave you alone here in the abandoned warehouse. Those vicious bandits might come back. Anna was subtly threatening him. Naturally, kidnapping would be done by hired people, and Makoto hadn't seen the face of the other person involved. The Wong family tried various maneuvers, but he couldn't find any evidence. Upon hearing this, Makoto's expression softened, showing pleading eyes, and Anna ripped the tape off his mouth once more. In the end, the kidnapping matter was left unresolved, and the Wong family didn't even spread the news. When Makoto returned from the hospital, no one recognized him. His face no longer bore any resemblance to the Makoto they knew. He declared, "I am the second young master of the Wong family. Do you know who I am? Let me in now." The security guards responded, "Enough with the fake acts. Who doesn't recognize the second young master of the Wong family? Do you think we're blind?" The villa's main gate remained closed as Makoto was escorted out by security. He shouted, "I really am Makoto." He was so angry that his nose was crooked, and no one paid him any attention, until he saw Willow visiting. He hurried over and said, "Willow, they all won't let me go home. It must be George's orders." Willow, confused, asked, "Who are you?" He replied, "I'm Makoto. Why don't you recognize me anymore?" Makoto, frustrated, then touched his face and exclaimed, "My face? What's wrong with my face?" Finally, he looked into a reflective glass and saw his own forgotten face, a face that belonged solely to him. Long forgotten. Makoto went completely mad. He couldn't accept this reality and stumbled away, running as far as he could. Willow thought she had encountered a madman and didn't pay much attention. She had come today to apologize to George. She didn't understand why he said such things before. Their childhood bond had been exhausted, but she still wanted to offer George an apology. I didn't accept her apology, and she left with tears streaming down her face. Later, when I heard about her again, it was related to Makoto once more. Makoto could never accept returning to his original appearance, but the system would never come back. He didn't want to take revenge on me, but he was always caught in the act. Helpless, he turned his attention to Willow, wanting to start over, but without that familiar face. Willow didn't recognize him. After some entanglement and tugging, both ended up in a car accident. Willow injured her leg, and Makoto was directly hit and became mentally incapacitated. I scrolled through my phone, looking at the news headlines, raising my eyebrows. It was deserved. "George, dinner's ready." My mother came out from the kitchen carrying a pot of soup. My sister yawned sleepily, and I got up, saying, "Coming." The moonlight outside was perfect, peaceful, and serene. Reborn. I decided to put my younger brother's name on the marriage application this time. This time, I would make Eva's wish come true. In this life, I was one step ahead, putting the groom's clothes on my brother and placing the engagement ring on his finger. I personally orchestrated every meeting between her and my brother. She took my brother to the northern city, and without a second thought, I headed south to study university. It was because in my previous life, after I had turned 50, she and my son were still begging me for a divorce. I was making sure to fulfill her final connection with my brother. In this second life, I only wanted to spread my wings and fly, leaving love and emotions behind. Chapter 1. Back in the 20th century, I listened to the woman in front of me speak. "Just fill in the name and give it to me." Eva impatiently tapped the table. I stared at the marriage application, my fingers lightly brushing the rough edges of the paper, my thoughts drifting. In my past life, I had filled in my name solemnly, like I was writing a sacred decree, then excitedly dragged Eva to buy wedding candy. But I had been greeted with a fierce scolding, just because she was in a hurry to return and cook soup for the sick Leo. I responded perfunctorily, "I got it, I got it." I glanced up at her anxious expression, her eyes frequently darting toward her watch. Today, she wore a white shirt dress, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows, revealing her slender forearms. I remembered that Leo liked her in this outfit the most, saying it made her look fresh and clean. "If you have something to do, go ahead." I suppressed the bitterness rising in my chest and feigned ease. "I'll finish it and hand it in myself." She seemed to let out a sigh of relief, her tone softening. "Don't worry, now that we're getting married, I'll be responsible for you. But you can't keep getting jealous of Leo. If others find out, it'll hurt Leo's reputation." I fell silent. I had explained countless times in my past life, but in her eyes, I was just a jealous and petty older brother, unable to tolerate my kind younger brother. She didn't say anything more and hurriedly turned to leave. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my chaotic heartbeat, but my mind couldn't stop replaying the events of my previous life. On our wedding night, she used the excuse of taking care of her sick brother and never came home. When she went on a trip, she only took Leo, saying that Leo had never been to the northern city. Even on the day our son turned 1 month old, Eva didn't have time to come, wholeheartedly comforting the divorced Leo. And then, before I died, my son was still desperately advising me, "Dad, just divorce Mom. You're not as good as Uncle in any way." Mom has been wronged staying with you all these years. Let her go. I lay in the hospital bed, looking at my cold wife beside me, who didn't say a word. It was in this deathly silence that her thoughts were silently confirmed. I bit down on my lower lip hard until I tasted blood, slowly loosening my grip. No, in this life, I won't repeat the same mistakes. I picked up the pen and slowly wrote my brother's name in the applicant section. Leo. Eva. Since you love him so much, let it be as you wish. I handed the filled-out application to the staff, took the marriage certificate, and turned to leave the Civil Affairs Bureau. I wasn't sad at all. Instead, I felt a sense of inexplicable relief. Chapter 2. In my previous life, after our parents passed away due to work, Leo and I were adopted by the Lin family. Leo was sweet-tongued and knew how to flatter people, making the Lin elders treat him better than their own son. Even Lin's mother had early plans to marry Leo off to Eva, but when Leo said, "I don't want to compete with my brother," Eva willingly married me. In reality, Leo just wanted to keep Eva dangling. Back then, Eva was just a regular female soldier, and he wanted to wait for something better. I went to school to make sure I understood everything Leo needed to prepare for university, including living expenses, before I could feel at ease returning home. When I got back to Eva's family housing, as soon as I entered the door, I heard Leo's voice softly say, "Eva, do you think he'll get angry if you come to spend time with me instead of your brother? You can spend time with him anytime. But you're physically weak, and I'm worried about you staying alone at home." Leo laughed happily, then suddenly pretended to be melancholy as he continued, "Will you still care about me after you marry him?" Of course. Eva's voice was firm. "Who else would I care for if not you? If your brother treats you badly, I'll divorce him." I clenched my fists tightly, barely managing to suppress the overwhelming bitterness in my heart. So even in this second life, hearing my wife speak so indifferently to me still made me sad. I adjusted my emotions and walked into the room as if nothing had happened. Eva came out of Leo's room, a hint of awkwardness on her face. I was just checking on Leo. He wasn't feeling well. I gave a faint then turned to go back to my room. In my past life, I had argued with her countless times because of their overly ambiguous relationship. But this time, I didn't want to waste any more time or energy on it. She stopped me. "David, why don't we buy some wedding candy and give it to the people in the family compound?" I looked at her in surprise, then realized it must be an attempt to compensate for my lack of complaints. "No need. There's no need for this kind of formalism." She was taken aback, probably finding it hard to imagine that I would reject this suggestion. "Is it because you're angry that Eva is taking care of me instead of you?" Leo came out of the room with an innocent and wronged look on his face, and he was wearing the linen suit that I had bought specifically for our wedding photos. It was the most popular outfit in the 1950s. In my previous life, I had saved up for months to buy it, never once daring to wear it. When Leo saw my gaze, he quickly explained, "I saw this outfit on your bed today and thought it looked nice. I wanted to try it on and forgot to take it off." He lowered his head, twisting his fingers, looking like a child who had done something wrong. Eva subconsciously spoke. "David, don't." I interrupted her, my tone calm. "It looks good on you. You can keep it. I've never worn it anyway." I could smell the faint blood and sweat odor on the linen suit. Thinking about it now, it made me feel sick. Under their surprised gazes, I returned to my room and locked the door. I pulled out my folder, which contained my admission letter to Guangdong University. I had always liked the southern region, especially the finance major that I had long admired. In my previous life, I gave up my education for Eva, willingly staying at home to take care of their family. But this time, I was lucky enough to catch myself in time. I only wanted to live for myself. I flipped through the calendar. There were only 10 days left until I could leave this place. Time was tight, but I had to make the most of every second to prepare. A knock on the door came suddenly, and I opened it impatiently. Eva stood there holding a bowl of noodles, her tone gentle. "You must be hungry. I made you some noodles." For a moment, I felt a wave of confusion. In my previous life, she was either cold as ice or spoke harshly to me. I hadn't seen this warm and affectionate Eva in a long time. "No need. I already ate outside." "How is that possible? You've always been so reluctant to spend money," she added, a little surprised. Her words stung me. I had been reluctant to spend money before, living frugally and using most of my hard-earned money to buy things for her. Now that I was about to go to university, there were many things I had to spend money on, and every penny had to be carefully calculated. I looked up at her, my tone calm. "I remember a few days ago, I gave you 50 yuan for wedding expenses. It seems you didn't buy anything with it. Why don't you return it to me?" She froze for a moment, then awkwardly explained, "That money. I used it to buy Leo a pair of leather shoes." I couldn't help but scoff. How tedious. It was always like this. "Then there's nothing more to say. I'll close the door and sleep. I'll give you the money tomorrow," she said, a hint of irritation in her voice. We're married. Do you really need to be so calculative? I couldn't help but snort coldly. So it's fine to spend my hard-earned money on someone else, but I can't even ask for it back. She knew she was in the wrong, but still stubbornly muttered, "You're impossible." I couldn't be bothered to argue further, slamming the door shut with a bang. Chapter 3. In the following days, I sold off some worthless household items and the keepsakes from my past life that were full of memories. Looking at them now, they seemed like nothing more than cheap junk. I packed everything up and sold them at a low price to a scrap collector, exchanging them for a few meager bills. In the afternoon, I continued sorting through my belongings when Eva stood in front of me, holding 50 yuan in her hand, her tone stiff as she said, "Here's your money." I took the money and nodded. "Thanks." She looked at me, her gaze complicated, and then shifted to the luggage I was packing. "I plan to take Leo with me to the northern city to join the military. You don't need to pack anymore." I didn't stop packing and simply nodded. She seemed a little uncomfortable with my attitude, uneasy even. "What's been going on with you lately? You seem like a different person." I turned my head impatiently. I didn't want to get into it, although Eva didn't love me. If she found out that I had written Leo's name on the marriage application, she might even consider re-registering the marriage for Leo's sake. I didn't want to be involved with this pair of dogs anymore. "It's nothing, just packing," I said. "Once you go to the northern city, I'll move back to the countryside." She breathed a sigh of relief and then explained, "It's not that I don't want you to join the military. It's just that Leo hasn't been to the northern city before and wants to take a look. After a few months, I'll come and get you." I nodded absent-mindedly. In the previous life, she had never come to get me to join the military for a full 8 years. It wasn't until Leo married a Beijing military beauty that she finally brought me to the northern city. Defeated, she looked at me, clearly not used to my silence. Usually, when we were alone, I would babble non-stop. Now, I was tight-lipped, and she became uneasy. "Didn't you always want to take wedding photos? Let's go to the photo studio tomorrow." "That wouldn't work tomorrow. I plan to buy some things for university." I was just about to make an excuse when Leo came in. He casually wrapped his arm around Eva's shoulders. "Eva, what photo studio? I want to take pictures too." Eva smiled and patted Leo's head. "Sure, let's all go tomorrow. You guys go ahead. I have something to do tomorrow." Eva furrowed her brows. What could be more important than taking wedding photos? "Let's go take the photos first. I'll go with you to buy whatever you need." Her tone was firm, as if she wouldn't take no for an answer. Leo chimed in. "Yeah, bro. Are you refusing to go because of me?" I didn't want to argue, so I simply nodded in agreement. Early the next morning, I heard Eva coaxing Leo to get up in his room. The red numbers on the calendar reminded me, only 4 days left. In 4 days, I would finally be free from this life. Just as I was growing impatient, they sluggishly came out of their room. Eva had already prepared warm water and was personally washing Leo's face. In my past life, I had been blind to it all, naively thinking that if I married her, she would treat me the same way. I was lost in thought when Eva hesitantly walked over to me, holding a ring in her hand. "Wang said it's popular to wear wedding rings now, so I bought one for you." I didn't take the ring. In my previous life, this ring hadn't even existed. As soon as Leo saw it, he immediately frowned. "It looks so nice. I want one too." I casually offered it to him. "Then you can have it." Eva's face immediately darkened. "Stop messing around. That's our wedding ring." Leo snatched the ring from her and slipped it on his finger, shaking his hand at Eva. "Eva, do I look good wearing it?" Eva looked at Leo with adoration in her eyes, smiling and nodding. Then, she turned to me, her expression guilty, and whispered, "I'll buy you one next time." I nodded indifferently. I had heard that promise many times before. Which one of them had ever been kept? Chapter 4. We went to the photo studio, and Leo went first. He even took quite a few pictures with Eva. When it was finally my turn with Eva, the photographer raised the camera, but then awkwardly lowered it. "Sorry, I've run out of film." I inwardly rejoiced, but my face remained calm. "Oh, well, I guess that's it then." After leaving the photo studio, Eva took a train ticket from her pocket and handed it to me. It was a ticket for the northern city. 4 days later, "I didn't mean to leave you behind," she said. "I'll get settled first and wait for you in the northern city." The journey to the northern city took 3 days and nights. I didn't know how she thought I could withstand it, especially since there was only one spot for the military assignment. Where would I even stay? But asking about it now wouldn't yield any answers. Seeing me accept the ticket, Eva clearly relaxed. "Don't worry. Even if you don't stay in the military family quarters, you're still my only husband. I will treat you better from now on. I only see Leo as a younger brother." For the first time, my expression softened. When had she ever said such soft words? Suddenly, a car came rushing around the corner and headed straight for us. Eva grabbed Leo's hand and swiftly pulled him out of the way. In the confusion, someone pushed me. I saw the car heading towards me, but my body froze in fear, too stunned to move. The car swerved sharply, knocking me aside and dragging me along. Pain surged through me, and my vision blurred as cold sweat poured down my face. The driver scrambled out of the car, nervously asking, "Hey, are you okay? Are you hurt?" The crowd gathered around, pointing and whispering. I looked past the onlookers and my gaze fell on Eva. She was comforting Leo, completely oblivious to what had just happened. Perhaps she noticed but didn't care at all. A bitter smile tugged at my lips, and the last shred of hesitation in my heart vanished. So this was her idea of treating me better in the future. The driver took me to the hospital. After some checks, the doctors confirmed it was just some external injuries and minor internal displacement. Lying on the hospital bed, I was in pain, but strangely, my mind felt calm. Late that night, Eva entered, looking exhausted. When she saw that I was awake, a brief look of panic flashed across her face. "David, how do you feel? Is it better?" I looked at her coldly and said nothing. She wrung her hands nervously, and after a pause, she tried to explain. Leo was a bit too shocked, so I was with him the whole time. And, under my gaze, she fell silent, looking uncomfortable. "David, let me explain." At that moment, it was so urgent. Leo was closer to me, so I instinctively. She paused again, seemingly trying to find the right words. "I didn't know you would get hit." I interrupted her. "When are you going to the northern city?" She answered cautiously. "I'll leave tomorrow." "I see. I want to rest now." "You can leave." I closed my eyes, signaling the end of the conversation. Eva seemed to want to say something more, but in the end, she left without pushing further. The next day, Lynn's mother came. She entered with a thermos, her face full of smiles. "David, Eva asked me to take care of you. How are you feeling now?" "Much better, thank you, Mom." She ladled soup for me while chatting on and on. "Eva, that girl, she's so clumsy. I don't know if she can take good care of Leo." Suddenly, she seemed to realize something, and awkwardly fell silent. "Mom, actually, it's Leo who married Eva." Lynn's mother froze, staring at me in disbelief. It took a long time for her to react. "What? What did you say?" "The marriage application I submitted is in Leo's name." At first, Lynn's mother was stunned, then her face lit up with wild joy. "David, you're such a good child. I knew you were the most understanding one." She eagerly took my hand. "Thank you, David. Thank you for making it work for them." I gave her a faint smile but said nothing. Making it work? It was only making it work for me. She had always had a soft spot for Leo, even in my past life, no matter how much I took care of her. When she got older, she still gave all her inheritance to Leo. "Mom, don't tell Eva or Leo about this, at least not for now." Lynn's mother smiled broadly. Of course, I understand. "Well, what do you plan to do now?" "In a few days, I'm leaving too." I didn't reveal my exact destination. Lynn's mother seemed to want to ask more, her mind filled with thoughts of their marriage. I closed my eyes, pretending to fall asleep. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I didn't notify anyone. Before leaving, I wrote Eva a letter. "Eva, when you read this letter, I will already be on the train to the south. I know you've always liked Leo, and I'm letting you have him. Our fate has run its course. I wish you both happiness." I put the letter, along with the ticket to the northern city and our marriage certificate, into an envelope and sent it to the northern city address. With my suitcase in hand, I headed to the train station. Chapter 5. The air in Guangdong was humid and warm, and as I stood in front of the university, I felt a bit dazed. Walking through the campus, I had a strange sense of being reborn. During the day, I sat in class, attentively listening and absorbing knowledge. At night, I worked part-time at a small restaurant, serving dishes and washing plates, my back aching from exhaustion, but this weariness made me feel grounded. A month later, I had slowly adapted to this busy and fulfilling life, but one day, as I was walking near the dormitory building, I saw Eva. "David, why did you do this? Why did you put Leo's name on the marriage application? Why didn't you go to the northern city?" Her voice was filled with anger and confusion. I looked at her coldly. "I don't want to be with someone whose heart belongs to someone else. It's disgusting. It hurts." She stared at me in disbelief. "How can you say that? You were never like this." I turned my face away, my stomach churning with waves of nausea. I didn't want to look at her. Not for a second. "Eva, I just want to focus on my studies and start a new life. Leo is the one you've always wanted, isn't he? You two should cherish each other. Don't come and disturb me anymore." She tugged at her hair in frustration. "What nonsense are you talking about? I've always treated Leo like a brother." I snorted. "Which family has siblings hugging and sneaking kisses?" Once, I had caught her stealing a kiss from a sleeping Leo. The tenderness on her face was something I would never forget. Her face flushed with shame and anger, and she snapped. "David, stop talking nonsense. Leo and I are pure." Her so-called brother-sister bond was, to me, utterly repulsive. "Let me go, and let yourself go too." Her face turned pale with fury, but she couldn't find the words to retort. I remembered when I first arrived at the Lin family's home. The fear of being a guest in someone else's house, not daring to eat enough. At night, when hunger became unbearable, I would sneak outside and eat leaves from the trees. And Eva saw me. She shared her snacks with me and comforted me. Don't be afraid, David. I'll protect you from now on. That warmth made me fall for her little by little. So, even though Eva didn't love me at first, I was willing to marry her in the past. In the following days, Eva still lingered on campus. I deliberately avoided her, not wanting any more contact. But I never expected that she would go to the principal, trying to have me expelled. When I was called to the principal's office, Eva was sitting there, upright. I was furious. Eva, what exactly do you want? Why are you trying to have me expelled? I want you to come back with me, she said, standing and walking toward me, reaching out for my hand. I quickly stepped back, avoiding her touch. Come back, so I can watch you and Leo get all lovey-dovey. Her face froze for a moment, then her anger flared. David, stop talking nonsense. We're still married. You running all the way to the south. Being in a long-distance relationship, what's that supposed to mean? Her shamelessness was laughable. Eva, your husband is Leo. The marriage certificate has his name on it, and the person you think about is also him. Her face turned ashen, and gritting her teeth, she spat. That was a mistake. Mistakes should be corrected. My previous actions made you misunderstand, but I won't do that anymore. My heart sank. These were the same words she had said in my past life, but in the end, she just turned around and went back to Leo. I turned to the principal, speaking earnestly. Principal, I really want to continue my studies here. Please don't expel me. The principal looked at me, then at Eva, and after a moment's pause, he said, Miss Lin, since you and David have no relationship anymore, you have no right to request his expulsion. I sighed in relief. Eva tried to say something else, but the principal cut her off. Miss Lin, unless you have other matters to discuss, please leave. I have work to do. In the following days, Eva continued to haunt me. I couldn't escape her, and my studies began to suffer because of it. But what troubled me even more was that Leo came as well. Eva, please, let's go back and get a divorce. I don't want this. I don't want to steal my brother's wife. I'm a bad person. He clutched at Eva's clothes, tears falling down his face. Eva comforted him, holding him close and gently patting his back. Leo, don't cry. It's not your fault. We'll go back now. I'm sorry. I made you suffer. Leo cried pitifully, pretending to kneel before me. Brother, I'm sorry. Please don't be mad at Eva. I know it was a misunderstanding between Eva and me. Don't kneel. It's my fault. I made you suffer. We'll go back now. As he said this, he shot me a look, one that seemed to accuse me of being unreasonable. A crowd of students gathered around, whispering and gossiping. I couldn't be bothered to watch this drama anymore. I turned and walked away. Let them act all they want. I wasn't going to play along. Chapter 6. It seemed that Leo had some influence, because Eva didn't show up again that day. I threw myself into my studies, joined the school's math club, and met Lily. She was tall and slim, wore black-framed glasses, and had her hair tied in a ponytail. When she smiled, it was bright and sunny. She was excellent at math and often helped me with my work, and over time, we became more familiar with each other. Just as I thought my life had finally gotten back on track, Eva's letters started pouring in, one after another, persistent as ever. David, are you still mad at me? I know I was wrong. Please come back. I know I made a mistake before. Please believe me. You are the only one in my heart. David, there should be a limit to how much one can hold a grudge. What do I have to do for you to forgive me? I ripped her letters to shreds and threw them in the trash. I didn't know what she thought gave her the right to believe I would change my mind. Maybe it was just her thick skin. At the restaurant where I worked part-time, the smell of oil and smoke filled the air as I quickly cleaned the tables. I looked up and saw Lily sitting in the corner. She gave me a small smile. I quickly avoided her gaze and continued working. When my shift ended, she was still sitting there, with several untouched dishes in front of her. Why don't you eat with me? She asked, gesturing to the empty seat across from her. I'm good. I've already eaten. I tried to refuse, but my stomach betrayed me with a loud growl. She chuckled lightly. You can't be shy now. Sit down. Unable to refuse her kindness, I reluctantly sat down across from her. A hot clay pot of soup bubbled with steam, warming me up against the cold. I dug in, not caring about my image. Slow down. No one's going to steal your food. Halfway through, I suddenly felt a tickle on my nose. I looked up and saw Lily smiling at me, holding a grain of rice she had taken off my face. Does your face want to eat too? She teased. I blushed deeply, hurriedly looking down. I knew she liked me. Her gaze didn't try to hide it. But right now, all I wanted to do was focus on my studies. The rest could wait. When winter break came, Lynn's mother kept calling, urging me to come home for the new year. In the end, They had raised me, so I couldn't be too heartless. After thinking it over, I bought a train ticket, packed up gifts, and returned to F City. As soon as I entered the Lin family's door, I heard a sharp, angry shouting. Eva, what do you mean by this? I'm telling you, you are my wife now. I froze. Leo was sitting in a chair, yelling at Eva. Eva's face turned pale, but she didn't dare argue. I want that watch. Go buy it for me now. Leo, can I buy it next time? I've already used up this month's allowance. Eva said cautiously. It's your fault for being useless. Still just a company commander. You didn't give the money to your brother, did you? Eva's expression changed. Leo, don't say that. I've already cut ties with him. Cut ties? Do you think I'm stupid? You've been writing him letters every few days. You think I don't know? You don't have me in your heart. You only have him. Leo shouted angrily. Eva looked impatient. I told you, I don't. I stood at the door, watching the scene before me, and all I could feel was absurdity and ridicule. In the past life, she hid her communication with Leo from me. In this life, she was hiding her letters to me from Leo. In the end, she was just someone who had her cake and ate it too, never truly loyal to anyone. Lin's mother was the first to notice me. Chapter 7. David, you're back. Come, talk to Leo. This child's temper is getting worse by the day, Lin's mother said, grabbing my hand with a hint of coaxing in her voice. I withdrew my hand and said flatly, I'm tired. I want to go rest in my room first. Her expression stiffened for a moment, but she didn't press me further. Instead, she turned to continue softening Leo with her words. She was like a completely different person compared to the commanding mother-in-law I remembered. Back in my room, I unpacked and pulled out the New Year's gift from Lily, a red cashmere scarf. I wrapped the scarf around my neck and looked at myself in the mirror. A smile unconsciously tugged at the corner of my mouth. That evening, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find Eva standing there, looking exhausted and uneasy. David, we need to talk. I stepped aside to let her in. She rubbed her hands together, mustering up the courage to say, David, the husband I've always wanted is you. I've been waiting for you. Leo's temper is getting worse, and he's spending money recklessly. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Waiting for me? Eva, do you even believe that yourself? What do you think I am? Someone you can call and dismiss at will? Her face flushed, and her eyes were filled with panic. David, let me explain. I cut her off. There's nothing to explain. You're married to Leo now. What else is there to say? Wish you both a long, happy marriage, and may you have children soon. She was silent for a few seconds, as if recalling something. I've been dreaming a lot lately. In the dreams, the man I'm married to is you. You're kind and gentle, always taking care of your parents back in the old home. She paused, and a hint of pain crept into her voice. But in my dreams, my eyes are always on Leo. I neglected you, hurt you. I was such a fool. And then, together with my son, I pressured you into a divorce. I was stunned. She dreamed of the past life. She covered her face in anguish. I'm sorry for treating you like that in the past, and now I want to make it up to you. I suppressed the anger rising in my chest and said coldly, if you really want to make up for it, then go live a good life with Leo. Don't come bother me anymore. It's better for both of us. Her eyes dimmed, and her voice carried a trace of unwillingness. But I always feel like the man I should be married to is you. My patience finally ran out. I gave her an ultimatum. Eva, you need to leave. This isn't the place for you, and these aren't the words you should be saying. She stood up dejectedly, her footsteps heavy as she left my room. I watched her retreating figure, but my heart felt no stir. In this life and the last, she had always been torn between two men, greedily wanting to have it all. I began to think that, since Eva and Leo were already living here, there was no longer any reason for me to stay. Lin's family was never my home to begin with. The next morning, I packed my things and knocked on Lin's mother's door. I handed her a bank card, saying calmly, Mrs. Liu, thank you for all the care over the years. The card contains the money I've saved up over the years. Please take it as a repayment for the kindness you've shown me. Lin's mother hesitated, trying to refuse. David, you really don't have to. Please, just take it, I said, picking up my luggage. I still have things to do at school. I'll be leaving now. With that, I turned and left the Lin house without a second glance, feeling no attachment. The line at the ticket counter was long, and when it was finally my turn, I found there were no tickets left to Guangdong. I checked, and the earliest ticket available was for the day after tomorrow. Frustrated, I ran my hand through my hair. Where should I go now? I couldn't exactly sleep on the streets, could I? Just when I was at a loss, Lily appeared, her arms full of bags. David, her face lit up with a smile as she walked briskly towards me. I was a bit surprised but smiled back, greeting her. Lily, what a coincidence. You're from F City too. Yeah, what about you? You don't have a place to go. Lily's voice was filled with concern. Why don't you come to my place for the new year? I'd feel better knowing you're not alone. I froze for a moment and quickly waved my hand. I couldn't possibly. Oh, come on. It's nothing to be shy about, she said with a laugh. It's just me and my grandmother at home. It's so quiet and lonely. You'd liven things up a bit. Besides, it's the new year. You shouldn't be alone. And I can't just leave you to fend for yourself. She paused for a moment, then added, please, David, just come keep my poor grandmother company. She's been so bored at home all alone. She looked at me with such a pitiful expression that I couldn't help but laugh. Unable to resist her kindness, I finally agreed. Chapter 8. As I walked out of the station, a cold wind blew, and I instinctively tightened my coat. Seeing this, Lily immediately took off her scarf and draped it around my neck, a faint floral scent lingering in the air. Cold. F-City is much colder than Guangdong, she said. I shook my head, though warmth spread through my chest. Lily's home was in the old district of S-City, in a charming two-story house. As soon as we entered the courtyard, the delicious smell of dumplings filled the air. An elderly woman with silver hair was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, smiling at us. Lily, you're back. And who's this? Her gaze shifted to me, and then she happily exclaimed, oh my, you've brought such a handsome guy back this year. I couldn't help but lower my head a little, feeling embarrassed. Grandma, this is David, my friend. Lily smiled and introduced me. Good. Come in. Warm up. Lily's grandmother was busy cooking dumplings, and Lily helped me carry my luggage to the guest room. The guest room wasn't large, but it was very clean and tidy. The sheets on the bed smelled like sunlight. You rest for a while. The dumplings will be ready soon, Lily said softly as she placed my suitcase down. I nodded and sat on the edge of the bed, looking out at the falling snow. A sense of unprecedented peace and tranquility filled my heart. Maybe this was what it felt like to be at home. That evening, we sat around the dinner table, enjoying steaming dumplings. Lily's grandmother kept piling food onto my plate. David, you should come over often. Grandma will always welcome you here, she said warmly. I smiled and nodded. My heart warmed. After dinner, Lily suggested we go for a walk in a nearby park. In winter, the park was nearly empty, with only a few couples sitting together, enjoying the rare tranquility. We walked slowly along the lakeside, neither of us saying a word. The snow gently fell, covering us like a thin veil. Thank you, Lily. I broke the silence, speaking softly. Thank me for what? Thank you for taking me in, giving me a warm shelter from the storm. Lily looked at me and teased. How about you repay me with yourself? I froze for a moment, then playfully scoffed. Nice try. Though I said that, a ripple stirred inside me. So, how will you repay me? After all, I'm the hero who rescued you from the perilous situation at the station, she continued in an exaggerated tone. I couldn't help but laugh at her dramatic expression and pretended to scowl. A hero? I think you're just trying to extort me. She pretended to think for a moment, then seriously said, let me think. How about you cook me a meal every day until school starts? I couldn't hold back a roll of my eyes. You think too highly of yourself. My cooking skills are just average, you know. She smiled at me. That's fine. I'm not picky. Besides, even if your food is bad, I'll eat it all, she added with a wink. I was amused by her cheeky behavior, laughing as I said, is this your way of showing gratitude? It seems like you're just trying to take advantage of me. Looks like my charm isn't enough. She sighed dramatically and then suddenly stood on tiptoe, getting close to me. Then should I try harder? My face flushed a little, and I quickly took a step back. She watched my flustered reaction and couldn't help but burst into laughter. I was just teasing you, she said, reaching out and gently brushing the snow off my hair. Let's go back. Grandma will start worrying. When we returned to the Su family home, Lily's grandmother had already prepared hot ginger tea to ward off the cold. I held the ginger tea, feeling the warmth of the house, and for the first time, I found myself looking forward to the future. Maybe letting go of the past and starting over wasn't such a bad thing after all. On New Year's Eve, fireworks lit up the night sky outside the window. The deafening sound of firecrackers echoed in the distance. I stood by the window, feeling a sense of disconnection, as if I were in another world. Happy New Year, David. She was very close, and her warm breath brushed against my ear, sending a slight shiver down my spine. I turned to face her, and our gazes locked. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, and my heart skipped a beat. Happy New Year, Lily. She leaned in closer to my ear and whispered, I like you, David. Outside, the fireworks continued to burst, their brilliant colors reflecting on my face and Lily's.